So everyone, we're with Jim Penman, the founder of Jim's Group, Jim's Mowing, and every other Jim's division which you see. And we wanted to do this real quickly today because there's obviously a few news articles that have been coming out by the same journalists all the time, and you've been really transparent with your replies, which we've actually put on Jim's.net website, which you can see. But we wanted to tackle some of these stories today because if people might be looking at a franchise, might be going, what's this all about, or being a bit put off with it. So let's start with the first one. So the first one was titled here, Cleaner terminated after 25 gamble, iconic Aussie brand under fire. So this was in relation after the dog wash stories. There's a couple more that come out. And this was about I think they changed the name, about a person who paid 25 grand to buy a cleaning franchise. And then there's a whole bunch of comments in the article. So one of the things Sarah keeps harping on about is lead fees. They can't get their head around lead fees or trying to make it sound like it's a bad thing. So do you want to just touch on about the lead fees, and also the claims about, people when they inquire, they rarely come into the system actually looking for a job, was one of the quotes in the article.
They really come in.
Yeah, that was one of the quotes. When I complained, they said it's very rare that people come into the system without booking a job, whereas the franchisee was saying that's not true.
Sorry, I don't get that.
Yeah. So a lot of the time they go on about lead fees, and then we obviously say that most people who call the call centre go on to book a job, whereas this franchisee is saying, well, that's not the case from their experience. And this was from one of the franchisees in cleaning.
Yeah. The conversion rate from leads to jobs is variable. Overall, they tend to get most of the leads turning into jobs, but obviously quite a few don't. There is a difference too. The leads that come in through the call centre tend to do better than the ones that come online.
Yeah.
That's an obvious thing. One of the things we have found is that your conversion rate depends on an awful lot of things. One of the main ones is how quickly you get back to the client. So, for example, we found that if you wait more than 2 hours, you probably won't get it. If you call back within the first 2 hours, but after the first 10 minutes, you'll get most of them. But we've actually done one study where we found if they rang back in the first 10 minutes after the lead, they would put 85%. So a lot of it depends on how people react.
I've actually had franchisees say they love the online leads as well, or Facebook leads, for example. When they get back to them ASAP, they convert.
Yes.
90-95%. That's on our...
The trouble with online leads is that they're booking with us, and then they'll go and book with somebody else. But if you get back straight away... So a lot of it depends on the individual.
Now, he says here when he complained about the leads, he's claimed to his franchisor, and he reckons he was told he needed to work harder. Then he goes on to say, I went to Melbourne for training, and he came back and he said in his first month he made nothing. What would you say about the claim that he made nothing in his first month?
Well, that's absolutely impossible. First of all, every franchisee gets some form of leads. But the point too is that what we say to them again and again and again, we don't guarantee any particular number of leads. But if you haven't got enough, here's your minimum income, go and offer free services, and we will pay for those free services because that gets you extra work.
Now, it comes up in these three stories about the income guarantee and the claims that they basically, well, Tom was the franchisee, or the changed name, saying that it was impossible for him to get, or pretty much impossible for him to get the pay for work guarantee. So maybe do you want to outline for that, maybe why that's not probably the case?
Well, it is quite possible, and most franchises do it quite successfully. The thing is, you've got to find people who want the job. So that you start with your neighbours, friends, relatives and so forth. You can offer it to franchises from other divisions, and I'll send out a list of those. And the other way we do it is through Facebook. We've got some great videos we can show people how to go. So you set up a Facebook page, you make an offer to your local Facebook group, and it doesn't have to be an existing client. It doesn't have to be somebody who becomes a client. It just has to be anybody at all, because when you do that, then you get a posting from that person who's very happy with it. Could be an elderly pensioner, can't afford it. We found that kind of stuff works extraordinarily well if you follow the system.
Correct. And what do you think about the headline itself, Cleaner terminated after 25 gamble? Because the word gamble means to take a punt. Like you come into business, it's not a 100% thing, right? So
yeah, it is. It's a gamble. Yeah. Going into business is a gamble. But what I say is this thing, if you go into business for yourself, like a cleaning or a gardening business, your chance of being still in business at the end of 12 months is between 5 and 10%. Look it up, it's on there. Now, our figures, and I have absolute concrete facts I can show, is that your likelihood of being a Jim's franchisee lasting 12 months is 88%. We lose 12%. So it's a gamble, yes. But the point of it is, you're spending 25 grand. The average franchisee turns over a bit under $150,000 a year, based on the surveys that we've done. So you've got a sort of 88% chance of making the equivalent of $150,000 a year, and a 12% chance you're going to fail. It's a gamble, but it's a pretty good one.
And without knowing who this franchisee is, he's gone in here as well and said the second month no leads came through, as they have so many franchisees they couldn't get jobs for them. The second month they didn't pay the fee.
Well, that's totally impossible.
Yeah.
And one thing I would say to anybody, if you're interested in a franchise, get on the phone and ring up other franchisees. We can also show exactly how many leads each franchisee got in a month. If he didn't get any leads, the only possible way was that because he was turned off for work.
Yeah, and that doesn't sound like it could happen. It could be a possibility, but it sounds very unlikely.
Yeah. Look, sometimes they're short of work, but you might be getting one lead every day, for example, and that's not enough to get going. That's why you need to do things like pay for work guarantee. But to get no leads at all is ridiculous. It's impossible.
Yeah, and he's saying in his third month he didn't pay his franchise fees, and then they terminated him. So it sounds like he didn't pay fees for 3 months and then didn't do the pay for work guarantee or want to do it, and then you got terminated.
It's very easy to do enough. I mean, the franchise fees on average are about $800 a month. So you've only got to do like 10 jobs for free. You can't do that just to cover your fees. In fact, anybody who really puts their mind to it can make the level of income. Look, it's not a huge amount on pay for work guarantee. It's anything from about $1,000 up to $2,500 per week, whatever it is. But it's always possible to make that.
Yeah, so just to summarise from that, it sounds like the sounds of it, didn't pay any fees, didn't want to do the pay for work guarantee, or didn't reach out to the franchisor at all. They probably did, the franchisor probably did help him, and then just didn't get the system.
Not only that, but I write to them after 1 month.
Yeah.
And I specifically say, how are you going, and how are you going with pay for work guarantee? Most people do respond, and if they've got problems with them, then I give them guidance. I send them videos of the stuff that you've done already, and we show them how to do it, and we encourage them, and we train them how to do it. It is actually possible. It does work, but you've got to follow the system.
And it's harped on in training, because we obviously know it's taught in training, and these things are harped and harped and harped. And I know for myself, in that session what I teach, we show them how to do the pay for work guarantee in the group. So I spend literally 5 minutes of the session showing the post and showing exactly how and why you do it. So it's not like they're thrown into the deep end.
And I talk about it on 2 different talks. I mention it in the ethos, and I have a talk on income at the end, and I go into it in very great detail how to go about it, and then we reinforce it, and then we coach it. Look, some people don't do it, but it's because they don't want to follow the system. You couldn't expect to be successful with McDonald's if you go in there and you don't clean up and you don't give good customer service and you don't paint the signs properly. I mean, you wouldn't succeed because you're not following the system. With us, you have to follow the system, and most people do, some don't.
Yeah. And following that article, so the article going on as well, so there's a lady in laundry who's saying she was critical of the pay for work guarantee as well, basically saying I'll promise $1,300 a week from, she says Jim's Cleaning here, so it's actually wrong, it's Jim's Laundry Services. But she says the conditions attached to the pay for work guarantee make it impossible to get, she claimed. These include working at least 5 days a week for 8 hours and providing 22 customers with a free wash, she said.
Well, what it says doesn't mean you're working 5 days a week for 8 hours, but you've got to be available to take work. You can't have somebody who claims pay for work guarantee only works 1 day a week and the rest they take the week off. You're not going to make it. You have to be available for work. That's really, really important. And yes, doing that many customers. I mean, that's just doing 22 jobs a week. For lawn mowing, I know more about that than laundry. I would say a typical $60, $80 job would take me around about half an hour to do. Now, you can't tell me you couldn't do 20 of those in a week. You're not even working anything like full-time to get that kind of money.
Yeah, and once again, and then they're basically saying the worst thing is that every month they're not willing to pay the guarantee, but they aren't guaranteeing anything. Well, they are willing to pay it if you do it. You've got to take the guarantee.
Yeah, we get a lot of franchisees who say, I want my payment. And you say, okay, well, give me the details of name, address, and phone number. Oh, no, I haven't. I want the money. Yeah. Just pay me the money. And then I send them a video of my talk where I talked about pay for work guarantee and what you need to do. Put your name, address, phone number of the clients that you've done. Oh, no, I just want the money. So it's a little bit difficult when you have that kind of reaction. We actually encourage people to go to training before they sign. Yep. So they've heard all these talks and they know exactly what's involved. Yep. Even then, some people will still come back and say, oh, no, I just want to get paid.
We even have videos of franchisees saying how it worked and how it helps them, which are online now for people to work. If you look in pay for work guarantee for gyms, it will come up with franchisees saying how it works and how to use it, and yet still people don't get it.
The great majority of most franchisees actually don't use it very much because their income tends to rise, especially divisions like mowing and fencing and so forth, so they don't need to claim it. But those that do actually need to, who go into it, actually tend to build their business quite fast, because as soon as you start offering free services, you start getting pickups and you start getting referrals and you start getting extra services and you're seen in the street. The cash income tends to rise very fast. The people who sit back and say, "Oh, it's all too difficult. It's not working." Well, it doesn't work if you don't make it work.
Yeah, it's not hidden. It's very upfront. As I said, it's all online. People can see. So same thing with this. It just sounds like didn't want to do the pay for work guarantee.
I often challenge them in training. I actually say that because I know it's a problem. I say, listen, you haven't signed, most of you. If you're not prepared to do pay for work guarantee, if you need to, then don't sign the contract because I don't want you to fail.
The majority of franchisors, they will say they don't even have to pay it out because there's plenty of work. So this isn't the case. If there's not, they need to do this.
When people write back up to 1 month, most of them say, work is good, I'm over my pay for work guarantee level. Those who don't, if they say they've been doing it, I congratulate them. If they haven't been doing it, I really go hard. I show them what to do. I send them the videos. I discuss it with their franchisor. I do everything possible to persuade them to claim. We really try and get them to do it. Because we know that if they do, it'll work. I have never known any franchisee in any of our current divisions ever to consistently offer pay for work guarantee and give reasonable customer service, which the vast majority do, to fail for lack of work. Never seen it happen.
And it's impossible to claim if you don't do the pay for work guarantee. So yes, it is impossible to claim if you don't do the
actual thing. You have to be available
for
to do work,
Correct.
and you have to do it, and you have to give us name, address, and phone number of the clients that you service.
And as always, Sarah chooses to use this and puts your little quote in, which basically Mr. Penman said, the great majority of people who buy a franchise succeed. A minority fail. That's the case for any business, except that the failure rate is far less than if they went as independents or with any rival organisation.
Right. The irony about all these articles is that we do it better than anybody else in the industry. We've actually had an independent survey done by an independent polling organisation to talk about how well are people doing, and the vast majority actually make good or satisfactory income. Nobody else does that. Nobody else does it as well as we do. But she puts these sub-stories of the minority that fail and make it sound that's the norm. It's not the norm.
Yep, it's clearly not the norm. And then, as we said, that much of that and then that much of what you say. Look, franchiseesurveys.com.au to see what Jim is talking about there as well. Then the last one of this first story was about mobile mechanics. They obviously told, he was told there's 300 service leads for mobile mechanics, which there probably was. And then basically saying he reckons he spoke to other franchisees saying no one was making money in that division. And I know that's not the case because I use a Jim's mobile mechanic, or I used to, and he was making $1,000 a day. Yeah. He was very, very happy. So I found that very hard.
And our figures of independent surveys show that most of them are making decent money. Obviously, it can be a struggle in the beginning, but with time, they just tend to build up. There's a lot of demand in that division.
Leads come up again. So he's saying leads for jobs cost $23 each, and he's saying he was given 15 leads in 20 days. And he says, not everyone answered my calls or messages, so off the 15 leads, I got 2 jobs, is what he was saying. But it's very hard to know how quickly you called them, all that sort of stuff, I guess. But
2 out of 15 is a terrible response.
Yeah.
It really, really is a bad response. All I know is that franchisees who respond promptly and effectively generally tend to get most of their leads and jobs. Not all. Some will be bug leads. They'll be bum leads, no question. Some people you cannot reach. Some people have changed their mind. There's all kinds of things that will happen. But most leads turn into jobs if they're followed up correctly.
Yeah, you're saying the reality of it, you win 30% of your calls. Well, if you don't do call quickly and all that sort of stuff, you're not going to win.
30% is very low. Yeah. The other thing too is what you say on the phone.
Yep.
Like if you go in, for example, on the phone, you give a high hourly rate. Oh, I'm going to charge you $100 an hour or something like that. Well, obviously you're not going to do too well because what you've got to actually do is to go and give a fixed quote, which has got a much higher acceptance rate.
Yeah, because obviously he's saying you put private chat with other groups guys, and they're saying they're making no money out of it, losing money everywhere. All the other franchisees, which I find it very hard to believe because I know personally.
I find this Sarah lady astonishing that she's a financial editor. I mean, she doesn't seem to have any comprehension of what business is about. She seems to think that everybody who goes into business always succeeds all the time. I don't know what she knows about business, but it's just not like that. She also is quite shocked that we charge ongoing fees. She actually said, oh, you keep on charging money. Has she no idea what franchising is about?
Yeah, it sounds like we're the only people who charge ongoing monthly fees for support.
Yeah.
I think it's supposed to be a free thing once you pay your initial purchase price.
If you have a system that charges up front, claims to be a franchise, charges up front, has no ongoing fees, it's not a franchise, it's a scam. Because the whole nature of a franchise is the ongoing support, ongoing leads.
And that has happened a few times. There was that Express franchise back in the day when you paid $10,000 and a lot of people went back because they couldn't afford the Jim's one. Yeah. And then they ended up coming back to
and they got nothing.
Yeah.
They got absolutely nothing. They got sort of a bit of signage and stuff and no leads, no ongoing support of any kind. Didn't last very long, but there's a lot of stuff around like that.
Absolutely. And look, she gave her obviously a massive amount of thing, and then obviously your part, your little part at the end, which is fine. And then, she wanted to highlight the quote saying, Mr. Penman added, it was correct that some franchisees are making very little money.
Yeah,
so
it's absolutely correct. There are some franchisees doing very poorly. On average, around about 9% report poor income based on their annual surveys. So yes, it's true. And going into business is not a slam dunk. If you want a fixed, guaranteed salary, you go and get a job. And that's the nature of the thing. Even then you can get fired. So it's not guaranteed forever. At least in your own business you can't fire yourself, can you?
Exactly. And then your comment about the survey again, left right at the very last, didn't put a link to it, didn't actually put the website URL, but that's okay where people can look for themselves. So that's that first one done.
What that's frustrating about this woman is that there's things you could do to improve franchising, and I've written to her about this. Systems where, and I've actually asked this for many years, systems where an independent poll organisation, like we had done, interviews, polls every franchisee from every division every year and puts the results online. That would really do an enormous amount to help improve franchisee satisfaction and success. She doesn't even mention this. All she does is pick on one company that's clearly doing it better than anyone else, points to the people who fail, which it'll always happen, and then uses that to blacken us. It doesn't help anybody at all. It's basically going for clickbait.
Yeah, and exactly right. And the title says it all, right? And then the next story. So the next story that came out was solely about a Jim's Mowing franchisee. I'm sure you saw it. He said he borrowed 80 grand to buy into the franchise because he had to buy a new ute to tow a trailer, which is obviously a bit of a hard thing to do at the start if you don't have the money.
That's an awful lot to pay for a ute.
Yes. Well, 80 grand. Well, this is including trailer equipment and everything. So he had to get a vehicle to tow the trailer.
Typical Jim's franchise is around about $25,000-$30,000 with equipment, including a trailer.
Yes. So when I saw that, that was quite an astounding figure. And I think he went for 7 months, and he was saying the best week he ever did in his 7 months was $1,800, which sounds to me like it's under the pay for work guarantee for that division.
It's a pathetic income.
Yeah.
All I can say is that our average franchisee, based on the mowing surveys we've done, turns over about $2,900 a week last time. So if he's making $1,800 a week, well, then he's really doing something wrong. I mean, put it this way, when I was a mowing contractor, I was 15 years, I used to mow on average about 12 lawns a day. Lawn takes about an average of half an hour. Then you've got travelling and stuff in between. But if you're doing that and you're getting charged, say, even $60 a lawn, which is on the low side these days, then you're going to be making $3,500 in a 5-day week. And that's not working long hours. That's not working Saturdays. So how a person can make as little as $1,800 per week, I don't know. But probably wasn't working full-time.
Yeah, other franchisees who saw that claim were quite astounded by the figure and when they read the story. So franchisees actually read it, and other mowing contractors outside of gyms actually, when they read it, left some comments saying, it was they found it pretty hard to believe.
Without knowing who the person is, of course.
Well, that's always the case.
I can't say why they're making so little, but that is astonishing little. And frankly, $1,800 per week would not be really worthwhile.
Well, it sounds like it even claimed the pay for work guarantee. I don't know what the pay for work guarantee in that area was, but a lot of mowing pay for work guarantees 2.5.
Very unlikely to be lack of work in the mowing division. Mowing division has massive numbers of unserviced leads, tens and tens of thousands of unserviced leads each year. So how a person can make so little, I don't know.
Yeah, and then basically, okay, so I'll read some more points about it because let's see what you think about this. So he was basically, he had to travel a lot, really far to find a lot of work. He was saying because of where I am based and pick up jobs, I was travelling between 800 to 1,200 k's a week driving, up to an hour from my home for some jobs. So he reckons he was spending 300 to 450 worth on diesel.
Probably someone who lived in the country then, it doesn't sound, I think, because in metropolitan areas it's not like that. Yeah, in regional areas you can have to travel a bit in the beginning before you can pick up local work. But if you work with the local community, you can usually get more and more. But that's the typical anyway. When a franchisee starts, they tend to take work over a wider and wider area.
Yep.
As they get busier, what we encourage them to do is to shrink the area they take jobs from so they travel less and less and less. And eventually either sell off or do something to their outlying clients and focus in the area.
Yeah. And she's bolded something here which says, claims his customer service skills were blamed, without putting any context to it. That's the highlighted line.
Yes. Well, we do know that if a franchisee has poor customer service, for example, they don't follow up leads, the most common problems with customer service are not poor work. They're not ringing clients back, not turning up. So if he's got a habit of doing that, yes, it's very likely that would have undermined his income. Because what people like to do, like to say, oh, well, it's all the fault of the system. But if you look at it and you say, yeah, he said, the franchisee says, yeah, look, I'm doing everything right and I'm doing fantastic customer service. But the clients are saying, didn't ring back, didn't turn up, lousy job, was rude, didn't give a quote. You see that again and again. And I see these things every day. Well, then you have to wonder whether it really is doing everything right, because the customers are saying he's not. And that's what the franchisor is trying to do in the coaching sessions, is to say, listen, I understand you're short of income, but what about ringing customers back? What about turning up when you say you will? What about satisfying your customers and getting repeat work and ongoing work? And that's what a franchisor's job is, not to say, hey, you've done everything right, even when you haven't.
Yeah, there's an interesting quote here where, and then he goes on about failing to pay his invoices. So he reckons he was sitting with $3.5 to $4 grand worth of invoices at any one time outstanding, which is a lot of money to be owed.
That's probably not that much, actually.
$3.5, $4 grand outstanding worth of invoices.
I would usually figure when I was a mowing contractor, at any one time, I might have about 1 week's turnover.
Right, okay.
So it's probably not excessive.
Yeah. And then basically saying that's where I started to need support from the franchisor to actually either help with the clients or talk to the clients. So he wanted the franchisor to do debt collection for him, but they weren't forthcoming in support in that area.
Yeah. We take about 6% of franchisees' turnover on average. The idea that we can then go and individually ring up their clients and harass them for debts is ridiculous. We don't charge enough. If you have somebody as a worker, okay, if you're a franchisee and you employ a worker and you're charging the client $70 an hour and you're paying the worker $30 an hour, you're making a more than 50% margin. That's the level where you can actually do the things like debt collection, but not when you're a franchisor.
Yeah, because you outlined in here, she did put in here that support by franchisors is ongoing, including responding promptly to franchisee calls, regular meetings, and at least one proactive call.
Franchisor would give advice on how to collect debts.
Yeah.
They're not going to go and collect debts themselves.
No. And then, what is it? And then once again, franchisees doing poorly, you get quoted about 9% with it as well. And then, where's the red flags bit? Okay, so Finn said gyms had already taken a cut from the job anyway, as every lead from the call centre costs $12, even if there is no guaranteed work at the end of it. It seems to be that they keep trying to make it out that leads for any business, outside of gyms even, someone contacts you via your website or whatever, it's a guaranteed job.
Well, we actually have a system where we sell unserviced leads to independent contractors. And we get hundreds of thousands a year, jobs we can't service, so we sell them off. And we charge that for a simple lead fee. Well, I'll tell you what, we've got independent contractors who take our leads and they pay a lead fee. And they also go through high pages where they pay a subscription and they get sent leads, most of which are going to be quoted by 5 different people. And I have never, ever, ever found anybody who preferred that system with a subscription to our system with a lead fee.
Yeah, absolutely. And then basically, I think then he was saying there was a scheme where gyms would pay for a completed job. So I think he's talking to the contracts department here. So he was saying then there was a scheme where the gyms would pay for a completed job, which might cost $100, and then chase the client for money, but they take 15% fee out of the $100 for their time and for their effort chasing.
Yeah, that sounds like the contracts department.
Yeah.
What we do is they pick up very large jobs, often across the nation, stuff that an independent contractor couldn't possibly get, and they farm them to the local franchisee. Recognising that's the case, then they actually should charge a bit more, and then the payment comes through the contracts department. But this is work they otherwise wouldn't have. We don't take 15% on any lead.
And then another bit, basically saying everything with gyms comes with the price tag. But then he says, now seeing a gyms group ad on TV triggers a bit of anxiety just a few years later. Well, the gyms group doesn't advertise on TV. Divisions may, but the gyms group doesn't. No. So that's wrong.
I don't think anybody advertises on TV. I've never seen it.
Occasionally you might see, depending on how cheap the spot is, you might see antennas or security and maybe cleaning if they do it, but most of them are all online. So there's no gyms group ad ever on the TV at all. And then basically they say now in the ad you get 2,000 guaranteed a week, and that's what triggers it for me, as that's another scheme in the whole system that you don't know anything about until you actually sign up for it. So once again, that pay for work guarantee thing, go to Google, go to YouTube, type it in. Everything is literally
and talk
there.
To as many current franchisees as possible about it. What's this pay for work guarantee thing? How does it work? How do you claim it? Most of them they'll tell you they never needed to claim it. But if they have, they'll tell you how to do it. Do your research. And we actually tell people in great detail before anybody signs. We preferentially have them do the entire training course before they sign. It's very rare a person does it first. We want you to know exactly what it is, exactly what paperwork guarantee, what lead fees are, what we expect in terms of customer service, and how to be successful.
Not only that, we have more than 300 interviews with franchisees which are unedited, where franchisees say we didn't have the best start and stuff. We're real transparent. We don't edit it out. It's literally all there. And a lot of the franchisees who come to training now actually do their research and listen to 40 and 50 of those and know everything about the system. So I find it very hard to believe that people don't know what they're getting about unless they completely turn a blind eye or don't even bother looking at anything we do.
Yeah, well, it's pretty strange. People can go right through training and they can be amazingly ignorant, like people who ring up and say, who contact me and say, oh, Jim, by the way, I didn't get these leads. I want you to take off the lead fee. And I said, I told you about this in great detail during training, and here's a link to the talk I gave about it.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's quite frustrating because, as you said, these attack articles that come at us, they fail to mention all this sort of stuff that we've made available. I think, to be honest with you, I think we're the most transparent system in Australia, if not the world, in terms of the content we do. So, but obviously not relevant to this sort of story. And then one quote here says, Mr. Penman said it was correct that ongoing support comes with the price tag of paying ongoing fees, but this was the case with every franchise system. So it's like once again, it's a surprise that
She seems astonished. You think, oh, no, McDonald's franchises, they don't pay any ongoing fees. They just get given all the support as a matter of goodwill and joy from the franchisor. Does she not have any understanding? That's what I'm just amazed that this woman is actually a finance editor. I mean, I'm sure she's wonderful on fashion or beauty or whatever she used to do, but how they put her in that job, I don't know. She has no clues.
Yeah, to be fair to her, she put in your quote about charging a lower fee and a lead fee and all that sort of stuff, saying it encourages franchisees to take only leads they want and follow them up, which makes sense. But as we know, it's hidden. It's right at the bottom of the...
Well, before we had lead fees, we used to charge a higher base fee.
Yeah.
And then we found if we're charging a lower base fee plus lead fees, what happened is that franchisees who didn't really want the lead wouldn't take them. And then they go to somebody who says, wow, fantastic. We actually found that when we did that, we got only about 1/8 as many customers let down, and we got 50% more work done because the work went to the people who wanted it. That's why lead fees are so effective.
Absolutely. And then, look, she puts in a part about you're selling the business and about you obviously give 80% of the sale and stuff like that, and then holding back if clients drop off and stuff, which is fine. But as we know, down the bottom, the rest of it's up at the top. And then they have then she's highlighted a line here that says, don't suggest failure is an option, which I think is, she's basically saying the franchisee obviously didn't feel failure was an option with gyms. So we sort of, I guess that's sort of trying to get it that we misled him in a way, basically saying he was in more country-based than metropolitan, which he thinks contributed to his failure.
Look, people do fail, and it's sad, but that's the nature of business. You don't go into business with a 100% guarantee. If you go into a business with a 100% guarantee that you'll always get paid every week, it's not called a business, it's called a job.
Yes. And then the other thing is, he goes, I feel that they have a responsibility for the area that I signed up for, that they have to have a realistic grasp on what the demand is in that area. Do you want to outline about that?
Well, what you can do and what we tend to do is we have a list of unserviced leads in the area. So we can tell people exactly what historically is coming through. So I can say I do this all the time actually to franchisees. I say in this particular period of time, these are the unserviced leads we've had. This is the services. We can do it for other divisions because they can take work from other divisions too. Like if you're a cleaner, you can take window cleaning or carpet cleaning work or even mowing work if you want to, if you've got the equipment. So we show them exactly what's available. So it's very possible to do research on what there is. But there's not always going to be enough to get a person off the ground with leads from the beginning. Often it is, maybe sometimes, usually it is in some divisions, but not always. And that's why you must do paperwork guarantee.
Must do paperwork guarantee. And as you said, unserviced lead report, you give them to people all the time when they inquire. They can get them from the franchisor. We're very transparent about that. And the other thing is about, he's quoted in here, I don't know, they like to tell you all about all the success stories, but they don't suggest that failure is an option. Which is why we hit it so hard when we actually did crumble. Well, we do say failure is an option. We have videos actually titled saying, I failed with Jim's Mowing once, then came back. And we also have people in the interviews who literally say it's not an easy thing. Like it's.
Plus, we talk about the training. We make it quite clear that failure is an option. In actual fact, nobody goes through training ignorant. If they do, they're just not listening. They've got wax in their ears because we make it very, very clear. Apart from the fact that most people sign after training, there's a 2-week cooling off period too. So if you actually sign a contract and within the next 2 weeks you decide it doesn't suit you, then you can cancel it, get your money back.
Yeah.
That's just the franchising code. So Of course, failure is an option. We don't talk again and again and again during training about all the things that can cause you to fail without you having some suggestion of an idea that it is possible to fail. And that's what we're trying to prevent.
Yep, absolutely. And why we've got all those interviews online as well, where franchisees say you will fail if you don't do this and follow the system. You'll be. It's all out there. So that's sort of that one there as well. But you quoted in here, which I think is pretty good. They said for this reason, franchisors need to be careful what they put on. No other service franchise in Australia has the system that I know of.
Yes, yeah. Yep. We found, for example, a franchisee who's hasn't bought the business for themselves, but their parents have paid for it, almost certainly fail. And we just don't accept people like that, or we shouldn't. If a franchisor does it, they're in deep trouble. I don't want to be dismissive of the person with that one, but in your regional area for mowing, like we've had franchisees in antennas who do really well, like, we're talking a massive hourly rate, so they do like hard divisions where there's less work, do extremely well in regional areas because they follow the system, they do the pay for work guarantee, they do all the group stuff, which we do, and they do extremely, extremely well because regional communities are really loyal to them, right? They can build a really big customer base. So I don't know without knowing that exact story, but it just sounds as though there was a bit of not following the system and maybe not, and taking a massive amount of debt out without knowing the financial situation. Franchises complain. Yeah. They say, look, I was doing badly, and all my franchisor kept on telling me was to give better customer service and bring customers back and be more efficient in what I do. But this is just business coaching. Of course, if you're doing things that are causing you to fail, our job is to coach you to do better. In other words, instead of saying, I want more and more leads, what about following up the leads you're getting already? Yep. What about following up quotes, for example? What about upselling to customers and saying, okay, you get your lawns mowed. How would you like the gutters cleaned? How would you like rubbish removed? Or you want your house cleaned. What about oven cleaning? What about window cleaning? We teach you to do this kind of stuff too. And that's part of the coaching. It's not just a matter of providing leads. It's about showing people how to run a successful business for themselves.
Yep. Go to YouTube, watch the podcast. All the franchisees, hear from not just from us, we're obviously a bit biased, but hear from the franchisees themselves who are doing it. Just you check that out before coming to training so you know what you're getting into. All right, the last one here, which was the most recent one we saw on Friday, was the construction story. So basically the headline, I think, was like, Jim's Group $2 million, $2.7 million claim or something like that to try and make it out.
Well, I could claim $100 million from anybody I like. It's a completely ludicrous claim.
Yeah.
This is the person who thinks that all the handyman leads should go to him, apparently, even though he's in construction, because anything to do with touching a house is a construction work, not a handyman job.
Yep.
It's just stupid. What's really ridiculous about it is that neither of the franchisees he had at that time were actually taking any handyman jobs at all.
They went down for it at all.
And in fact, the only reason that Morris, this guy, is taking handyman is because I put them down for him. Not only that, but I showed him that there are all kinds of jobs like home modifications, major, which is exactly the sort of thing he should be doing. They're going unserviced because he doesn't even take them.
Yep.
So this is a guy who's claiming for lack of work, but in fact, he hasn't even taken the jobs that are on offer.
Yeah, and one of the franchisees, I had a look at his work requirements, was territory only.
Yeah.
And didn't have any of those services that you're talking about.
No, both the franchisees had
both of them, yeah.
Neither of his franchisees were down for handyman work. He hadn't set them up for handyman work at all, and they weren't even taking jobs outside territory. I actually rang one of them and said to him, look, why are you doing this? So I said, if you want extra jobs, I can give them to you through Biza. So he decided to surrender his franchise.
Yeah, because it says in here that whereas the dispute deepens, basically saying that they might cost $10,000 and require a building license. And he reckons that in reality, of course, 99% of handyman jobs are below the level, and some handyman franchisees do have a builder's license, which they do.
Yeah. So it's not illegal. And the point of it is if it's construction, if it's a new home, if it's an extension, if it's a granny flat, if it's any actual building, it goes to construction without question, because handyman franchisees mostly don't want that kind of work. In fact, they don't want to build new homes for sure. So the kind of work that anybody, normal person, would regard as construction. But I mean, he says, construction is building a deck, for example, or a pergola, which might cost a couple of $1,000. Who thinks it's a handyman job? Who thinks that it's construction, like a building? It's not like it's a house.
No, exactly right. And then one here says, but since this is an interesting one, but since news.com.au asked questions for this story, one of the franchisees has dropped out of the dispute and terminated his involvement with the division, which was the gentleman you mentioned.
Because I rang up Steve and I said, Steve, why are you paying all this money to this guy? You're taking more leads. I'm happy to give you any handyman leads you want through our business system, because you're really not getting any benefit.
Yeah, absolutely. But just on that's a that's -1 to the group, so it's a detriment to us that you did that. But that's the right thing to do, as you said.
Yeah, I'm losing fees, but I can't honestly justify morally charging a person money for no value.
Yeah, think of any other franchise system that would do that. I doubt it. With the CEO calling up a franchisee doing that, I seriously doubt it. The other thing here was he claimed as well that the franchisee felt intimidated by a phone call from you.
Well, actually, he did.
Which you denied the claims, obviously.
We had a very friendly conversation. He just said to me, I didn't realise what it was about. So he dropped out of the case and he decided to surrender his franchise. Look, he was paying $800 a month for getting no work at all. He'd been paying it for about 6 months. He wasn't taking leads. What is the point of it? I just pointed out to him that
well, we've said it already, but it's annoying because like this quote is obviously hidden down there and people aren't going to read this quote, but it basically says, this is from you, I explained to him that the only reason he was not getting handyman leads was that Morris had not put him down for them and that we would be very happy for them to take them. Like it's just, but that's down here and then you've got the...
He'd never talked to me about it. That's why I wanted to ring him. Because he didn't know what was going on. He didn't know what the case was about. He was just roped into this thing, you're being denied work and stuff. But he wasn't being denied work. Morris didn't even put him down for work.
And then at present he's not taking leads at all, not even construction leads, but he's too busy. But as we said, it's right down here, whereas it's quite...
Actually, this guy didn't even want construction work as such. The kind of work he wanted was modifications of existing buildings. So I said, look, I can put you down for those anytime if you want them.
I'll get frustrated because we obviously do a lot of work being transparent and then we have this sort of stuff. And your replies are actually on the website. So if you go to gyms.net, you can actually see her emails in full to you and your responses in full because I think transparency is important as well. But obviously we don't have the benefit of having all those site visitors to our domain where we can just blacking a brand for that. Now, then the other part of the article is legal avenues, and he says, with the marketing notes for the call centre revised to ensure right jobs are fed through to construction division, but apparently they were changed back. So
yeah, Morris just rang up and of his own input, he put some ridiculous things in that a whole lot of genuine handyman jobs would just go to him only. That was just crazy, and it wasn't reasonable. The handyman people got a franchise. If a handyman job, if somebody looks up Jim's handyman and says, "I want a pergola done," or "I want some carpentry or some doors," that's a handyman job. They're paying for them. They're paying for the advertising. They didn't bring up for construction. They rang up for handyman work. So naturally, we give it to handyman franchisees. And if we didn't, we'd be in breach of contract with them because we've been giving their jobs that they paid for, that's in their contract, to somebody else.
Yeah, which you can't do. And you're quoted here saying this is an idiotic idea and we changed them back, which you did. Now, basically, I obviously put in here that you go in mediation as of the time of this, actually tomorrow. Yeah. So this release of this was quite interesting that came out on a Friday, in my opinion. And then basically saying a claim for $2.9 million had been made against Jim's Group, who fiercely denied the allegations. But his lawyers are apparently flagging this figure is set to go even higher.
Yeah, okay, you can charge $150 million if you like. You can charge $1 billion. What does it mean? It's just a stupid figure. He's got to, even if he had rights, which he doesn't, because there's no jobs that he should get that he's been denied. Even if he did, there's nowhere in the world that he's lost any money out of it. And he can't show that he has. So it's a completely frivolous, ridiculous claim.
Well, I'm not, from hearing about this, I just think, personally, I think his lawyers are pushing him into it to try and obviously get their legal fees and all that sort of stuff, and they're selling him
the lawyers will make a fortune. The lawyers are going to charge $300, $400, $500 an hour and give him, that's what they do.
I personally think they're taking advantage of him.
In the whole history of Jim's Group, we have been to court with any franchisor twice.
And this is in 40 years nearly.
Since 1989, we've been to court twice.
Yep.
In both cases, there was a situation where we offered them a certain amount of money to buy out. In one case, we terminated the person for poor performance, but we said, we'll buy your business off you at a fair market price. Went to court, spent a week in court, and at the end of it, we mediated, and I gave him exactly what I promised in the first place. The other one's the same thing. It's all to do with sale of region. So in both cases, I made an offer right from the beginning. They rejected it, went to court, spent a few days in court, ended up accepting. We have never, ever lost any case, ever.
I think his lawyers are doing a disservice and they're trying to get their fees because they're going to get their money either way.
They're doing great service for them.
It's great service. It's a great service for them. But I think it's,
Lawyers can be pretty difficult. We had one particular case where somebody was claiming for the return of the franchise price. They had a good claim, actually. And I said to them, look, if you want to take it, I'll support you with this. but they actually decided to go to lawyers and get a whole sort of thing. We're talking about a $35,000 business. And eventually it was settled at mediation, and they got the $35,000 for the business. But the legal fees were $100,000. And I cannot comprehend how anybody can be so unscrupulous as to do something like that. And we said, we'd help you out. We'll help you with the franchisor. We'll get your money for you. And they said, no. The lawyer said, no, Jim's has got pots of money. We'll go for them. But guess who got the pots of money? It wasn't the client. It was the lawyer.
I hope that's not the case in this situation. Well, I think the lawyers are going to obviously get their money. Either way, unfortunately, from this, obviously there's mediation on Wednesday, so at the time of doing this is the day before the mediation, so we'll know more than that. Hopefully it stays out of court as well, but I think they're being egged on.
You won't go to court.
Yeah.
You will not go to court. It's such a ridiculous case.
And the basic, and lawyers as well, just use ChatGPT. You don't need a lawyer anymore. That can do all. Mr. Terzo said another franchisee himself tested the call centre with inquiries about renovations, which weren't sent to the division. I presume that would have been done with this, just to the setup, gyms online or something like that. That's the claim anyway.
I don't know if they rang up and said I want some changes done to my house, modifications to the house, which is a typical handyman job. Yeah. If they said they wanted a construction, a new house or something, you'd definitely go to the division. So it depends on how you define it.
And he's saying, I've been successful, but without my leads, which is the whole reason why you go to gyms is to get leads. I think his problem is if handyman are used to getting leads and leads are switched off, and Jim's group are used to selling leads externally through Biza, it's created a revenue stream.
We never actually, the only leads that go to Biza are those that no franchisee from any division wants. So if there's a handyman leads coming through and he said he wants it, and the only one you could possibly want is home modifications major, which is a service code. If he wants that, if anybody wants that in any division at all who's legally able to do it, they can take it. Only if they say no does it go to Biza. So in other words, what he's saying is you cheated me by selling a lead to Biza that I didn't want. I'm going to sue you.
Yeah. And then his lawyers, so I don't know if it's his lawyers who did this PR release or whoever did it, but his lawyers have claimed that there are various breaches of the gym's agreement and the franchisee manual, adding that the attempts by Mr. Terzo to resolve the dispute has been met by a general evasive and dismissive tone of recent communications from Jim's group.
No, nothing evasive. We just simply told him you've got no case. There's nothing evasive or dismissive. It's dismissive in the sense it's a ridiculous claim, yes, not evasive. We're very clear. I was personally very clear with Morris exactly what the situation is and exactly why there's been no breach.
And very clear with the journalists, as on our website as well. And then basically, saying here you will attend mediation as required by the code, but you're saying it's a ridiculous claim and no handyman franchisee will lose any work. And pretty much, you're saying, as you said, might be dismissive, might be evasive. And you're trying to obviously help him in a way to save him these legal costs because, He
wasn't taking handyman leads at all.
Yeah.
He was saying all the handyman leads should go to construction, and I said, what about taking handyman leads? So I personally went into his system. I worked out what he wanted, and I put him down for the leads that he wanted to take. That's the only reason he's getting any handyman leads at all. He wasn't even doing it. This is a guy who's been through all the training courses and didn't even know how to do these sorts of things.
Well, the Gym's online video is actually available for anyone to watch. It's a great video by Steph for 20 minutes which shows them how to do this. And then it's been quoted here saying there's 4,000 unserviced leads in Handyman Division of Victoria so far this year. Yeah. So there's a lot of unserviced
There's a massive amount. We'd be delighted if Morris or anybody else wants to take these leads. And these franchisees are welcome to them too. But if they don't want them, we're certainly not going to say, oh, look, I'm sorry, Morris doesn't want this, so we're going to say no to you. No, if there's an independent contractor who can give a good service, we'll give it to them. But that's only after Morris says no.
Yeah, it's a baffling thing, and you're trying to help him by not going that way, but obviously going that way, and the lawyers are going to win out, obviously, with that in terms of fees. And then basically it says here, you said that handyman leads taken by construction franchisees total 26 in all, which is just over 1% of the unserviced handyman leads in Victoria as well.
Yeah. There are so many unserviced leads. We'd be delighted for you to take them.
And the argument you're saying here is that any sort of handyman work that builds anything is construction, regardless of value.
Yeah.
So
I don't know what he's selling. I want a new door put in. Oh, it's construction. Well, yeah, but it's a door. I mean, most handyman jobs are quite trivial. That's why we call it handyman. It's not the building division.
No.
It's the handyman division. It's for little jobs. It's for small jobs that a handyman can do. We don't actually have builders doing it. Now, some of them have got building licenses and they can take the major ones if they wish to, but the great majority are simply handymen. And
then we have, we also have a branding, building and maintenance as well, because we do have a lot of qualified chippies and stuff as well who want to do some of those works too, so building and maintenance.
Frankly, if I wanted to change done to my house, a small change. I wouldn't bring a construction company. I wouldn't bring a builder. I wouldn't bring someone like Metricon to come and do a change to one of my rooms. I'd call a handyman. That's what the construction division is about. It's about new stuff, extensions.
Granny flats.
It's about granny flats. It's about new houses and stuff. And they have got a few leads like that.
And then one here, she's highlighted just the thing saying $2,700 a month in fees. So Mr. Terzo says he pays $2,700 a month in fees to the gyms group. So
yes,
would that be the divisional or the regional fee he's paying?
Yeah, regional.
Yeah.
He does.
Yeah,
he does. So that's up to him. If he sees value, he can continue doing it.
And then basically saying he also claimed that all divisions absolutely loathe Biza, where leads are offered externally.
Well, actually, the franchisees love Biza because what happens is when we sell the leads, the money goes, all of it, all the profit, goes to the franchisees. So we're doing things like giving franchisees, flat screen TVs worth over $1,000 for $250, and holidays and discount and tickets to the football and all kinds of things based on it. So franchisees love it.
Yeah, so you're putting it that this year will likely give out close to $1 million in benefits. So as far as aware of franchisee system, they love it. And the deals seem obviously extremely popular, all paid for by Biza.
I know. Yeah. The TV went in less than an hour, they're all gone.
They were. Headphones, there was everything.
Yeah.
So it's not you're just putting it in your pocket, which people buy all.
And the reason I do that is because the franchisees paid for this work through their advertising. So I think it's fair that they have the benefit. So we cover our costs, which have been considerable. You've got staff and so forth and everything else. But all the profit goes to franchisees. And I'm hoping in the future it'll be more. I'd love it to be millions of dollars. We actually only managed to give away a fraction of the unserviced leads, which is the unfortunate thing. If we could give them all away, we'd have millions of dollars to spend with franchisees.
Yeah, and that's the thing I want to point out, because people still think, money grab, all that sort of stuff. But, they're calling us for a service. We can't do it. Yeah. Where's the solution, right?
I don't have to give that money. There's nothing in the contract that says that this bit of money has to go to franchisees. I just think it's fair. They paid for it. They get it.
Yep, and that's what happens as well. You don't believe us, you can ask franchisees as well.
I don't know any franchisees who are unhappy about having a sell leads we don't want to be given to the money to be given to their welfare. I've never heard any franchisee complain, oh no, I don't want a cheap, ultra cheap, brilliant
flat screen TV.
I don't want tickets to the footy. I don't want all these things. I'd rather not have them. I mean, that's just ridiculous.
The Accor vouchers as well, which is the other one. That was a pretty expensive exercise, all paid for by Biza.
Yeah, that's right.
So the Accor one,
$600 Accor voucher.
2 nights hotel,
Yeah, 2 nights and a half price for meals, all kinds of things. It was a brilliant deal, and we gave away nearly 1,000 of them, didn't we?
Gave a lot, a lot away.
They gave a lot away. And franchisees love them. They say it's fantastic. Who wouldn't want an extra benefit? Who would say, no, I don't want all these freebies. I don't want these cut price accommodation, free holidays. I'm not interested in that kind of stuff. I'd just rather get nothing. I mean, who's going to say that? So
just to be clear, it's not paying for a penthouse on the Gold Coast. It's paying for franchisee benefits on the system.
That's right.
There we go.
I don't have a penthouse on the Gold Coast. Not like travel anyway. So
I've heard gold penthouse and all that sort of stuff. And it's basically Mr. Terzo believes the entire size of the gyms group could grow if the division got traction via a different placement of leads. He says, I could make a monster and really successful franchise division. So that was...
Well, I don't think he's got a clue. He's not even taken the leads that we're offering him. So how can he make it grow?
Correct. So it's, that was pretty much the end of that one. But as I said, you were really transparent with the apply. We put it all in Gyms on net, so people can literally watch how Sarah operates with obviously the questions, gives you a quick deadline. You real transparent. Like, we're not talking short stuff. Most people are told don't respond or give some sort of wishy-washy general non-answer, whereas you literally gave reports. You've given full replies to every single thing.
I also gave them the figures too.
And the figures, I
showed them the actual surveys that were done, including by the independent operator.
Yeah.
I showed them the dropout rate. I gave her a figure to show that only 12% of our franchisees drop out in the first year, which you can easily check against public information. So I've given a very detailed report from our system as exactly the situation, none of which you mentioned, of course.
That's correct. But just a second thing with this, why do you think, obviously it's getting clicks or whatever, but why do you think that, because I think with the size of the gyms group, we have nearly 5,500 franchisees. We obviously have franchisees leave and come and go for various reasons all the time. I think there's been probably maybe eight quoted in these articles out of the whole group, which I think...
Well, there's a lot more than unhappy. We do know that a minority of franchisees do poorly. There's no question about it.
Yeah.
Sometimes leads are a bit hard to come by. You need to do things like paperwork guarantees. Some franchisees, far too many, unfortunately, don't give great customer service, or they don't put the effort in. They're not prepared to work full time. They want to make it full time income, working very few hours a week, which in the beginning is quite difficult. So we know people are unhappy, and she's quoting some of them. But you can do that for anybody. The best franchise system in the world has got to have some people who do badly by the nature of it. Not every franchisee is going to be successful. Not every business is going to be successful. But the only thing we could say is a lot more people who would buy a franchise from us are a lot more likely to be successful.
And I think I think we're the most transparent system in the world with the content that we do in regards to all the interviews we do, yourself, like daily I'm getting you to do TikTok videos responding to people's questions and comments about the franchise. It's literally everything's out there for people to see before they come to training about the realities of being in gyms and all that sort of stuff as well. Do you think this is going to keep going, or do you think hopefully this is stopped? But what would you say to someone? Because obviously, people looking into a franchise, they might see this as a surface level, and we hope that doesn't put them off, and we hope they come across to find this stuff.
We haven't seen any significant drop-off in franchise inquiries. I don't think it's having really much of a benefit. I would say that most people who are smart enough to consider going into a franchise are probably smart enough to do their own research.
Yep.
To actually take the trouble to get on the phone. We give a list of all franchisees in the region with their phone numbers, and I think anybody smart enough to buy a franchise is usually smart enough to get on the phone and ring a few at random and just say, look, is this true? How are you going? Would you do it again? What sort of income are you making? Is the support good? Just the basic questions. And if anybody's too foolish to do that, well, they probably shouldn't go into business for themselves.
Yeah, that's a good point. We'll leave it there. As always, gyms.net if you want to read Jim's articles, Jim's responses to Sarah in there as well. And we'll keep doing transparency. If anything else keeps happening, we'll just keep jumping in here and putting a full opinion. And we actually had a lady who watched the dog wash one who actually said she was a bit on edge, but actually watched it and then came into training after understanding the full thing, which I thought was a really good thing. And we're all about transparent franchising. So thanks for your time today, Jim, and good luck with tomorrow.
Okay, thanks.